Live from the Toyota Escondido Action Sports Studios, this is the Action Sports Show.
It's time for the Action Sports Show, powered by Toyota Escondido Action Sports, featuring Jim Holthus, Ricky Johnson, Dan McGranahan, and Amanda Woods. And now,
you're on, guys.
Folks, welcome to the Action Sports Show. This is Tuesday, December 22, and we got a heck of a show lined up for you tonight. Jim Holthus, Laurette Nicoll, Dan McGranahan, Dianna Dahlgren. We are here for you all tonight, and we have some awesome guests lined up in-house. Industry icon, MonsterEnergy Joe Parsons is in-house with us, and freestyle motocross legend Doug Parsons, not related, but you guys, I don't know if you knew that. It's the Parsons of Parsons show, so it's going to be great. So welcome to the show. If you're on the website, go ahead and follow our social media when you get the chance. And, hey, guys, gals, welcome. What an awesome week in sports we've got here. And good to see you all
Awesome
again.
week in sports and in entertainment.
Right?
Good Lord.
I know. And the real winner is... Just kidding.
God.
Unbelievable.
Yeah,
the
but
shot heard around the world.
it was, but we have to be careful too as professionals because we've all had that moment. I know my moment, and it was, cringeworthy, and it bothered me. Still, I'll think about it
Still
today.
does.
I'm like,
Yeah, obviously.
oh God. But you know, I
don't blame
know how
Steve
that
Harvey
happened.
as much, but the poor girl. I mean, she's wearing the crown. She's celebrating for two whole
doing
minutes.
her walk.
With the walk,
wave.
she's got the crown, the sash, the wave. It's done deal. Then they send someone else out to rip the crown and sash off of her. I think they should have given it to them both, your co-winners for this year.
I mean, I know these girls are just classy, but you don't take a crown away from a Colombian woman right after you gave it to her. You're asking for trouble.
Right?
Those girls are fire.
Well, you know, I watched pretty much a synopsis of this whole event occurring, and pretty much the Latina community is so outraged by this. Not only that, you know, here pageantry in United States is just so not what it is in other countries.
In South America specifically.
Well, not even South America. I mean, you got to think about the Philippines, all those little islands. I mean, it's pretty much just like, you know, it's third world country. So over there, the only two things that matter are what? Beautiful women and soccer.
Right.
So it's an outrage for, you know, this to be happening to Colombia. And like last year when Miss Colombia won, they were creating fires and there was riots in the streets because this woman won. So now you have to imagine what's going to happen this year, or what has happened this year down in Colombia because of this mistake.
And I heard the folks in the audience were throwing their drinks up, just causing a whole
really?
ruckus.
Here's
and, you know, it just sucks all the way
Here's
around.
what it is. It's here's the deal.
What's the deal, Dave?
Yeah,
This
Dan,
is the
what
deal.
is
You
the
guys
deal?
are all
Give us
missing
the
it here.
deal.
Of all your
Okay.
pageants, tell us what the deal is.
411.
The deal is Manny Pacquiao got screwed, and this is how they're repaying the Philippines.
No, I agree. I
This
never
is
even
the
thought of that.
global
Right?
return of, you know, this is all, you know, the money team's fault.
But did this mistake bring pageantry and the Miss America contest back into the forefront of American viewers or viewers worldwide? Like,
I mean,
has this
if
pageant
you want to say that all press is good press, they got more press than they ever would have got had they not made this mistake.
They got
I
more
mean,
press in the United States than they ever would have, you know,
in 10 years.
in form of it being something good. They would have never gotten the press that they did.
I agree.
So because a bad event happened at this pageantry, you know, contest.
You know, the conspiracy theorists say that it was done purposely to relaunch this, if you will.
Perhaps.
Is it possible?
Well, they're conspiracy theorists for a reason, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Well, you know, Steve Harvey is going to get on his own personal jet and go home to his $1 million house and
Who knows what
his
that is, you know?
bank account.
Yeah.
You know,
Well-
like I'm sure he's fine. I'm sure
He
he
had a
feels
contract.
really bad.
I'm
But let's be honest, he's still getting paid. He's still Steve Harvey.
I'm with you, Laurette, where I looked at it and I was like, man, as a host, it's like your worst nightmare. But you also know that he had a producer handing him. So what I want to know was, was he told to say the wrong thing? He trusted someone, because as hosts, we're trusting people.
Right.
They're telling us things, and we're repeating them often, and we don't get to actually do the firsthand information. And so I wonder where the chink in the armor really happened.
Well, he took all the responsibility, but then there was a Snapchat that was launched out there of him yelling at someone saying it was on the teleprompter, and then that got erased. And then he said congratulations to both Philippines and Colombia, and spelled both of those names wrong. So he's getting all this crap for Philippians, a book in the Bible. It's like, really?
On his Twitter.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Now,
He's
at least
a comedian. This is just good for him.
So at least
Yes.
At least
you can spin this.
Dianna was there with our friend Dave Arnold to make sure he didn't do the same thing at the Score Awards the other night. So,
this poor Dave. He's talking about, we did the Score Awards for the Score International. Guys, for all the Baja races, all you listeners out there wondering what the Score Awards is, the season closer. We're giving away these awards. We open up, and he's like, you know what, Diana, I like to start off with a good old joke, lighten the crowd up. And I'm like, great, sounds good. I'll follow right behind you. Well, he does crack a funny joke, but nobody laughs. And I'm like, looking at him, I'm like, I'm so sorry no one's laughing at you right now.
Is always my fear, and I've done the Score Awards for a couple years. That's always my fear of cracking jokes. So luckily I had Cameron Steele, so I just direct my jokes right to and about him, then everybody laughs.
Yeah, so he says, hey, welcome everyone to Score Awards. It was a great season, blah, blah, blah. Well, guys, clearly, I'm the trophy here tonight. And
that was his joke?
Yeah, it was something along the lines of that. And I was like, and then I looked at everyone else and nobody was laughing. And I was like, no.
Just
poor
crazy.
David.
That's the worst.
And Dave's in the hospital right now, so thinking about you, buddy. Hope you feel better soon.
Yeah, we're not making fun of you.
No.
We're not. Of course not.
Yeah, we won't let this get out on the air.
In other news.
This just in. How about Kelly Slater breaking the internet with this?
Perfectly.
He's creating waves, apparently.
But
and I mean, like, in the water. Like, I create waves from time to time.
He's creating airwaves. He's creating waves in the water. He's creating waves on the internet, on every social media platform. Globally, he is the talk of the town right now.
What you like to say, it's breaking the internet right now.
It's breaking the internet right now, Jim.
For action sports world, it definitely is. I mean, surfers around the world are just like blown away, and
you just saw it. Are you blown away? That's pretty cool.
Away.
Huh?
I just went out on his Instagram and checked it out. I couldn't believe it. It looks like an actual wave, but then you see
better.
You see a fence in the background. You're like, what's the fence doing in the background?
So he drops this. So what happens in the surf world is a couple things happen. One, the main thing is the World Surf League just wrapped up with the final event at Pipeline, and Adriana de Souza came away with the win. So he's our new world champion, another Brazilian world champion.
Very nice.
Continue to dominate the world of surfing, and the Brazilian contingent right now in surfing is incredible. So that happens, and then Kelly walks away from that, and then he says, okay, guys, I've been sitting on this for a while, and I'm ready to drop this. And he kind of just nonchalantly puts it out there. And it's the most game-changing thing that has happened in the sport of surfing possibly ever. More than the invention of big wave riding, more than the
wake surf, all those things.
Certainly more than wake surf or anything like that. Is if we've tried to manipulate everything, the wave size, all that stuff. But if we can now actually create our own waves and put them anywhere we want. There's a famous movie in surfing, and it's called North Shore, and it's very funny. But it's about a surfer from Arizona that grows up in a wave pool and goes on to become the best surfer in the world. Well, that is going to happen now because Kelly Slater has created a wave that can go anywhere in the world, whether you're landlocked or not, and you can perfect your skills as a sport at the sport of surfing. So you're going to see these kids from Detroit in 20 years be some of the best surfers in the world. And it's going to absolutely obliterate the sport as we know it, reinvent it. You're going to see the urban side of surfing, and it's going to be wild.
Well, I keep thinking what this is going to do for surf contests and how this is going to change the whole face of it, because, we'll see some of the surfers be sitting out in the ocean, and the waves are super crumbly, and they're not coming along, and the sets aren't coming.
That's right. The best surfer didn't get the best wave, so we didn't see the best performance.
Yep.
Well, not only that, you got to think about these guys. You're talking about, we could have some kid from Detroit becoming the best surfer in the world, possibly in 20 years. You can think about that, but you also have to think, what about that kid paddling out into these massive riptides, these massive sets that are coming? I mean, to be in the ocean is no joke. So, I mean, you might have a guy who can take the best, technique and score solid across the scorecard in a surf contest, but he probably can't even paddle out to the set in the ocean.
Yeah, and if you know the movie North Shore, that is one of the premier points, is they mock this kid for how destroyed he gets by the elements of the ocean. Yeah, you can surf, but you cannot manage you're not a waterman. You can't manage yourself in the ocean. That is very real, for someone to transcend to really coming from a wave pool into real surf stardom in ocean waves, that's going to take a very unique person. But now it can plausibly happen. Whereas
so you can control like the size of the wave. You take animals, sharks, all that kind of stuff out of the equation. Can you control the temperature of the water?
Why not?
Maybe.
Absolutely.
I don't know.
100%. You control the temperature, the color of the water. You want red water? You want blue water? You want green water? You want yellow water? You want yellow water.
Polka dots would be nice. But I mean, really, like you say, it just changes the game all the way around. And I can't even believe it.
But we're going to drop some news here on the show. Since this video dropped, everybody's been wondering, where is this wave? Where is this wave? It's the it was kept top secret. He didn't say where the wave was, and
but you know.
But I know.
How do you know?
I know some people that know
how
some
do you
people.
know? That's what I'm asking. That's what I was talking about before the show. I'm like, what do you mean you know?
Look, Mr. Newsbreaker.
Look, they put us on the radio because we know stuff.
Yeah.
So
so where is this magical place?
Yeah, since how you didn't tell me, I'd like to know.
Drum roll, please. This wave is on the West Coast, whereas a lot of people thought it was on the East. It is right here in the state of California.
Shocking.
In the city.
Waves?
In the city of Fresno, California.
It's
there it is.
Fresno smooth. Fresno's just getting all the play.
Fresno is where it's at. It's hidden in the city of Fresno, California. So
Fresno is an armpit of California. Why is it there?
Well, it is now an armpit with the best wave.
It's like Bakersfield.
Yeah.
South of Santa Cruz.
I've heard of it.
North of Carmel.
Oh, wait. Maybe I was thinking of Bakersfield.
I like how that.
Ouch!
I like how this just actually shut us up. We were just like all in awe of why it is in Fresno.
Here's why it's in Fresno. Nobody would think to look for it there.
Yeah.
100%.
You have a lot
Area
of
53.
You have access to Delta water there, and it's it just the year-round climate works. It's cold there, but it works. Like you can definitely, build year-round. And they apparently bought this property
in California
and have been working on it for about 10 years. And it's far enough out of sight, out of mind, where it's not going to stir some action. Kelly Slater could walk around in Fresno and not be known. Now, in 10 years, that might not be the case, as this potential expansion of surfing could happen behind this.
Is it a lake or a pond? Because it looked like pond water.
It looks a lot like pond water. That's a lot like what the Delta water looks like that you see up there.
Mm-hmm. That muggy ocean water up there.
Right.
Is that what it is?
Yeah,
Swamp?
because I don't understand why it's like that up there, but that's how San Francisco Bay is it too. It's not like this beautiful ocean water that we think.
There's just particles in it, and but once they perfect how to do this is my prediction. You're going to buy a home. I'm going to buy a home in 10 years if I have the opportunity in a neighborhood that has one of these wave pools. It's part of the association.
I mean, I might buy a house tomorrow in Fresno.
Yeah, right?
And what about jobs? There's probably not a lot of shapers in Fresno.
Well, it's time for an explosion of
I have a feeling that Kelly Slater brought his own people to Fresno.
Yeah.
He did. No, he did. He brought his own people to Fresno.
He's got people.
They probably were based out of here, and just Fresno was a close enough drive to make it work. But he's also invested in surfboard companies. Like, I think he knows that
there's a grand
expansion's
scheme
coming.
going on for sure.
You start to put all the pieces together.
So what's the system? How does it make it work?
That is unknown. Now, I have a theory
Okay.
And there's a lot of we're gonna probably have a show about this because there's so much to this concept that we could get into and discuss. But I think the key to it is you can make a big wave, but it's not cost efficient. It takes a lot of energy. It takes a lot of expense to do it. So what you got to find is a cheap way to make a good wave, and then basically the bottom of the lake, the way they shape it, can contour what the wave's going to look like. So what you need to do is get that pulse of energy, that surge. So I'm going to tell you what I think it is, but not till after this break. Better hold on.
You know what? We are going to go take our first little break, and when we come back, Monster Joe Parsons back in the U.S. He's here. Folks, the Action Sports Show powered by Toyota of Escondido. We'll be right back.
You already know that Toyota of Escondido has a huge selection of new and used Toyotas, right? But I bet they have a few more things you didn't even know, like a certified collision center. If you're ever in an accident, get your Toyota fixed with the proper parts it was meant to have at Escondido's only Toyota certified collision center.
Toyota of Escondido. Toyota of Escondido.
Looking to save money? Toyota of Escondido has a full refinance department. Keep your current car no matter the make or model and let Toyota of Escondido's refinance team help lower your monthly payment or current interest rate. Visit ToyotaEscondido.com and click the refinance tab.
Toyota of Escondido.
ToyotaEscondido.com. Shop for your new Toyota and much, much more.
What's up? This is Robbie Madison. You're listening to the Action Sports Show, where all things action sports goes on. Tell your mama I said hello and keep it wide open.
You're on, guys.
Welcome back to the Action Sports Show, powered by Toyota of Escondido. Jim Holtis, Laurette Nicoll, Dan McGranahan, Dianna Dahlgren, and we're welcoming our first guest to the show. Back, we haven't done radio in a long time. Monster Joe Parsons, welcome, buddy.
Well, thank you. It's actually an honor to be here with you guys.
Actually, man, the last time you came and did radio with me, you brought the Dakar trophy and set it on my desk and said, "There you go," and I was like, "Oof, wow."
Yeah, it was a lot of weight. That was a very, very precious piece of metal.
Yeah, that was really cool. How you been? You're out here with your beautiful new wife, and life looks good for you out there running MonsterEnergy Europe?
Yeah, no, life's good. Just got married on the 12th of September, 2015, and went off to Melbourne to finish off the Speedway GP series. Came back and then went on our honeymoon out to the Maldives for about 10 days. Came home and jet-setted back to the U.S. and here till the 11th of January. Going to go see Supercross on the 9th.
Ugh.
So, yeah.
We'll be there.
Roughing it. Man, I'm not mad at you, but man. Did he
No,
mention when he goes back he moves into a new place? And
Yeah,
it's just-
February 1st, we move out of our smaller flat that we have into more of a nice American-style home, two-car garage, backyard.
Okay,
Nice.
you're in America. Don't use the word flat.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, I was just going to say he's
Thank you.
Well,
he's converted.
it's not an apartment. It's not a condo. So it's not. I guess you could call it a duplex.
Flat. What are you living in?
There
a
you go. So we have those here.
That's more or less
We have
what it is.
duplexes here.
It's
We
a
don't have
duplex.
flats.
And
Joe, are you based in Poland?
Yes,
Are you-
I'm based in Poland,
back
in
there.
a town called Toruń.
Wow.
And the town of Toruń is for speedway racing around the world. It's like NASCAR. You're going to live in Charlotte, yeah. So if you're in the sport, it's a good place to base yourself. It's got one of the nicest purpose-built stadiums, just for speedway, nothing else.
You were just showing us. I can't believe the size of that thing.
Yeah, it's a 15,000 capacity, and it's I'd say filled every Sunday.
Every Sunday.
Every Sunday.
Yeah, speedway in Poland is not an individual racing format. Yes, of course they do have that, but it's match racing. It's clubs like soccer, team against team, two riders against two riders, and the team that gets the most points out of 15 heats gets the winning point of that match, and then they race at the away the next weekend. And there are 8 speedway clubs in the league itself, and it's called the Extraliga is the name of the highest level, like a Premier League. And then they do that for 14 rounds. The top 4 guys, 4 teams with the highest points out of the 14 rounds move into a semi. And then the 2 out of that move on to the finals. So it's about 56 races throughout the year in Poland, just at the Extraliga. Then there's the Speedway FIM World Championship, which is an individual championship. Which we are the presenting sponsor. Monster Energy is across all those events. And there, in 2015, was 12 events. In 2016, we moved to 11 events. First race is in Slovenia, and the last race is in Melbourne, Australia, finishing up in October. So,
And you're going to all of them?
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, you think that's a lot. I mean, you have to talk about what it's like working for Monster Energy, not only you, and you're pretty much the top of the food chain when it comes to Europe, Monster. You have to think about all the other employees that are underneath you here in America. I mean, when you work for Monster Energy in the sports marketing sector, or if you're one of the head honchos, I mean, you are traveling nonstop to all these events.
Yeah, you are. It's like a giant circus, there's a bunch of us doing a lot of the similar things. We all have to work together. We're all away from our loved ones and family all the time. So we have to be a band of brothers, band of sisters while we're on the road as best as we can. We all got to get along. And we got to look for opportunities. We got to manage the opportunity we have currently. And at the same time, we got to create havoc.
Monster Energy has no problem creating havoc.
It just kind of comes natural when you get the right people there.
Who doesn't want to have a good time?
Right.
But, a good time doesn't come easy. There's a lot of hard work. There's a lot of planning. Some of the people, you don't realize, the contracts, getting contracts through our legal department, it just comes from. It takes a lot of time. There are a lot of people involved. This company has grown astronomically in the last 15 years. I mean, when I came to the company 15 years ago, it was, we had about 15 people.
Yeah, you were in that
California,
one building, the original
Hamptons.
building, the Hanson's building.
Yeah.
Yeah. You just had a couple of offices upstairs.
Yeah,
that was it.
I mean, there wasn't a big giant, group of people, but at the same time, we were just a pimple on the whole beverage world of the map, and things have changed, and the brand has to evolve, and in some cases, we've got to go more mainstream. Sticking to the core sports is great. But let's face it, we got to think outside the box. Now we're in NASCAR. People were 15 years ago would say, "Oh, we're never going to go to NASCAR," but we have to get there. We've got to attract new consumers. As the energy drink world itself grows, we've got to grow with it. With new consumers coming in, we've got to be a chameleon and be a beverage for everybody, not just a beverage for a particular sector. Whether it's mainstream football, NASCAR, bull riding,
all over the MMA
horse
world.
racing, MMA. We've got to diversify ourselves, just like our products. We don't just have a few products. Obviously we have a whole refrigerator full of goodies. And each product, we don't even try to call our product flavors. They're personalities, because think of consumers. They're just a bunch of personalities. And that's how our marketing needs to go, and our sports marketing needs to go. And we have to really gravitate to that. If we don't, we just become another product on the shelf.
Have you actually taken stock of how much has actually changed in the 15 years that you've been at the company? And
oh, yeah.
Would you have been able to predict the branches that you guys have gone off on?
No, you could never predict it. And that's the beauty of our brand. I really believe, some companies come in with a huge strategy, with a target. Our target is real simple. We want to become the best beverage company in the world. How do you get there? It doesn't matter. Are we going to plan? Well, if we plan so much on getting there, you might fail. So don't plan on getting there, and therefore you'll never fail. That's how the brand's been kind of just a snowball. You never know how big that snowball is going to get before it reaches the bottom of the hill. It just starts and goes. And sometimes you get to an intersection, and you have to decide which way you want to go. And you take risks. And not all opportunities work out. You just reel it back and hit a left. Maybe that one's going to work. And you just, over time, here we are today, and the brand's just, it's a monster in itself.
Mm-hmm.
No doubt. No doubt.
Well,
One of the biggest brands, and I've even heard someone say, if you compare it percentage-wise, you can compare it to brands like Apple, and it stands above brands like Apple in its percentage growth, and that's just extraordinary.
It is. I mean, the social media definitely is a huge factor that, prior to 15 years ago, what was there?
You couldn't visualize social media because it didn't exist.
No,
of course not.
No, at all.
You had commercials back in the day.
but
TV
Monster
commercials.
would not do commercials
No.
back in the
No.
day.
No.
I don't even know if you'll do one now.
We've done some 30-second spots, but those aren't commercials per se just to do a commercial.
It's usually co-branding with some type of event.
Yeah, exactly. We've endorsed an event, whether it's say X Games or whatever, and we get an inventory. We get so many 30-second spots, and sometimes I don't think if you remember some of the X Games we did when we were part of the X Games Los Angeles in summer. Before
you think I don't remember those?
And what we did is we brought more commercial free.
That's right.
That was our commercial. This commercial free moment was brought to you by the good folks of MonsterEnergy.
Right.
By giving the consumer more content is what we felt was better than running another 30-second spot.
Yeah. I do remember that.
Yeah. So we've had to do some traditional TV stuff, but it's really been built around building up an event, I think, not just out there to, oh my gosh, I saw a Monster commercial. Yeah, there's no need for that, at least today. Tomorrow, maybe that'll happen.
Well, I'm very curious to know this always about you is obviously I've been around Monster Energy for 7 years now, and there's always Monster Joe, Joe Parsons, and you're the international guy, and you're really what took the brand from the ground up in Europe and in these international markets. What is it like as an American going from Southern California, Hanson's, like you are in the, what's it called?
Cool guy capital of the world?
We are like the action sports epicenter here. And then you're like, all right, well, I'm going to fly across, halfway across the world, and I'm going to go set up shop in something Poland, and I'm going to build this brand.
Yeah, it was, I moved my first country. I moved to Budapest, Hungary.
Budapest, right, yeah.
And I lived there for about a year and a half. After that, I moved to Vienna, Austria. And after that, I moved back to Budapest for another year. And I've been in Poland since. But some of the most interesting times was that first year and a half in Budapest. So I literally landed on December 22nd of 2009. And we had planned to launch the brand in April 1st of 2010. So Mark's just like Mark Hall, our president. He just says, just go over there and sort it out. Drive around, learn the geography. Well, I don't speak Hungarian. So I got there and I was in my hotel room. And Andy Bell, good friend of mine. Andy Bell had known this guy who had the distribution rights for Oakley sunglass products out of in Hungary, Tamás Lani. And so he was a friend on Facebook of Andy Bell. So I went to him and looked at, well, who are his friends? And I just started randomly friend requesting. And I sent a message to the guy who accepted him, like, hey, what energy drink do you drink, dude? The guy probably wondering, well, who's this American dude asking me this, So then I got a hold of Tamás Lani, and I said, hey, we're going to be launching this product called MonsterEnergy in Hungary, and I want to do a soft sampling. So I said, can we do it in your Oakley store? He says, yeah. I said, put it out on your channels, and I'll bring 2 cases, because that's all I had. The product wasn't available.
No.
You brought that on your carry-on.
I had it shipped out. So I had that chilled, 2 cases there. 150 kids show up. And just like, now they know the brand from the action sports world, whether it be Supercross, Motocross, any of the sports that we've been involved with heavily in the U.S. And so they're just going, wow. And so I can't even give everybody a can. So we're passing around a can in little Dixie cups, or they're drinking from the can. But they wanted the can even when it was empty.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. And so that was kind of one of the ways we kind of build up some awareness. And then there would be other days where I got more products sent to my hotel. I'd load up my backpack, and I'd hop on the local subway trains. And I'd just look for people that I thought might understand our brand, whether it be tattoos or they riding a BMX bike and they hopped on the train. And I just give them a can. Here you go, bro. Try this. And the word got out. And then we go to a BMX park, bring some cans. And over time, these kids became my marketers. And it grew quite quick.
Well, so it wasn't like you were, like you sort of referenced, it wasn't like you were presenting them with a concept they weren't, it was so seated in their eyes and so unattainable. When you came in with the angle to attain it, they were so already, ready for it. They were already, ready to jump on the movement. They already understood a lot of it.
Yeah, and I used them to help guide me of where we should play and where we should not play. Whether it's a music band, great, that's a music band. What clubs do you play at? Maybe we should be trying to sell our product in that club if that's where you guys play. Connecting those dots, and then just copy-paste to the next country. I opened up 14 countries in 2 years, and that was a rapid growth between hiring, the mat leaders, the local marketeers, who their team was, and then they would come back to me on who their local athletes would be, our Monster Army kids. Who are we going to sponsor? Why? They would bring me all that stuff, and we built a whole tree of people in 14 countries in 2 years, and it was a blast. Now I'm not worried about the local level marketing. Now I'm focused on.
Now he's focused on going to races in Melbourne, Australia, and Budapest, Hungary, and.
So one of the big,
London.
Exactly.
London.
And the Maldives.
One of the big objectives our CEO Rodney had given me was Speedway in Eastern Europe seems to be our Supercross. How do we get into that sport to where we dominate it? So did some research, looked at what riders were going to ride for us, what series we need to sponsor.
Call Mr. Hancock.
Yeah,
he went on Facebook. He sent out some more friend requests.
Spoke to my good buddy Bruce Penhall back here, who knows Speedway quite extensively.
Yeah.
And we came into the sport. In the last 5 years, we've been in the sport. In the last 5 years, we've had world champions. Whether it's first and second, first and third, we've always maintained for the last 5 years. The FIM Speedway GP World Champion has been a MonsterEnergy athlete of ours. And, it gets harder each year to maintain that. But going 5 years in a row has been unbelievable. Our Dakar Rally program up until 2015 was extremely successful. We won 3 years in a row in the car category. 2016, we're taking a 1 year hiatus.
Which you don't just roll up to Dakar and take over. That's just
and I heard that when
crazy.
we come back from this next break, I want to dig into that a little bit. Funny thing though, we've been involved in both of the Connor Penhall Memorial Cups thus far with our friends at Blue Sea and Bruce Penhall and everybody. And so Greg Hancock flew in for the first event, just fresh off the jet, tired, and we have all of our Toyota Escondido trucks, and we're parading around all these royalties, and I get the Grand Marshal, and Greg's in the back of my truck, and I said, hey, Greg, remember me? Thanks for – we were on the Edge show, and he's like, wow, you're kidding me. But it was just weird to see him come in like that, and just what a super great guy. And
Greg's an amazing guy.
Amazing rider, amazing
three-time
athlete.
world champion. 45 years of age.
You know what was really fun? I used to announce the party in the pits for MonsterEnergy. So whenever we went to Supercross, I would always bring people up, and we would have monsters, and we'd have contests, and we would interview your athletes. And I got the opportunity to interview Greg Hancock.
Oh,
and just
nice.
What an impression he made on me. He has so much class and so much talent. There's so many people, but athletes in general that can learn a few life lessons from him.
Absolutely. You couldn't have said any better words about him. I mean, he's a superstar no matter where he goes. He takes the time to acknowledge fans. He signs everything and more than everything.
He was there past everybody signing autographs.
Yeah, I mean, and he always, his logo and his nickname is the grin, and it's perfectly fitting to him. Yeah, he's always smiling. He's representing the U.S. very well.
Yeah, no, that's so cool. You know what? I know we're going to break soon, but what I would really love to find out from you is maybe how we could bring Speedway back to the forefront to American fans, because it is so much fun.
Joe gets a twinkle in his eye when you say that, so I have a feeling like this is something that he would love to see.
So chew on that during the commercial break, and let's come up. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about Dakar and a whole lot more. Monster Joe Parsons live with us, the Action Sports Show live. We'll be right back.
One name you should know, the best place you can go, Toyota of Escondido.
It's official. Once again, the truck pros at Toyota of Escondido sold more new Toyota trucks than any other Toyota dealer. That means more smart buyers like you trusted Toyota of Escondido's Truck Center to find them the right truck for work or play.
Toyota of Escondido. Toyota of Escondido.
It makes sense to buy from the truck sales leader. Let Toyota of Escondido customize your new truck to fit your active lifestyle. Choose from lift kits, custom tires and wheels, and much more. Come experience a whole new way to buy your next truck.
Toyota of Escondido.
Toyota truck sales leader for San Diego County for 2014.
You're listening to Guy Talk, broadcasting live from the Sport Clips Haircuts locker room. Caller, you're on the air.
Hey, boxers or briefs?
Speaking briefly, boxers. Unless you're a boxer, then I'd go briefs. Next caller.
I want to find my nearest Sport Clips, but I don't want to ask for directions.
It's not technically asking for directions if you use sportclips.com to find your nearest Sport Clips location, and no one will ever know. Let's take a break for a word from our sponsor, Sport Clips, where guys go to get an awesome haircut while watching sports on TV. Throw in our relaxing massaging shampoo and our legendary hot steam towel, and you've got our MVP haircut experience. Your head will be as majestic as a freshly mowed Major League outfield. Try it today. Last caller, you're on the air with Guy Talk.
So how cool is getting a haircut at Sport Clips?
Oh, it's like stepping up to the plate and slam dunking a touchdown. That's all the time we have today. This has been Guy Talk, brought to you by Sport Clips, where it's good to be a guy.
Hey, what's up? This is Pab from San Clemente, California. I race the number 16 trophy truck. I'm part of the Desert Assassins, and I love the boys at the Action Sports Show, and Amanda's okay, too.
You're on, guys.
All right, folks, welcome back to the Action Sports Show, powered by Toyota Escondido Action Sports. If you're just joining us here at the one-stop shop for anything and everything in the world of action sports each and every week, I'm one of your hosts, Jim Holtis, joined by Laurette Nicoll, Dan McGranahan, Dianna Dahlgren, and we're talking to Monster Joe Parsons. We're normally here, in the U.S., but we're going international tonight, and it's great to have him back here. He's done so much here for all of our athletes and everything over the years. And we were just talking before break. You had a point that you brought up about Speedway.
Yeah, we were talking about Greg Hancock
here,
and, a multi-time champion in Speedway. So how do we bring this really exciting, really fast sport to the American forefront?
No, it would be, I think it would go over very well if it's done at the right venue. So first and foremost, you got to pick the right venue that can house the amount of people you really want to create the right atmosphere. The 15 to 20,000 people maximum creates that really beautiful atmosphere. But the environment of the track itself, the surface of the track, needs to be prepped right, so you need the right dirt. So that needs to be sorted out. There are a lot of logistic elements that need to be sorted out before you can even kick off a race. And then you need some people to endorse the brand itself, the actual sport of Speedway. You know, Monster Energy, we endorse it quite extensively. But obviously we can't just continue to finance at a much, much higher level to go outside of where we already are. Speedway for us from a company works very well in Europe from a financing and from a brand awareness and from activation. By bringing that over to the U.S., it then becomes potentially attached to our U.S. marketing. And how does that work with the existing properties that are in place? Does it or does it not? What partners are going to be involved? In Europe, there are a lot of bigger companies that get involved in Speedway. So they are taking care of a lot of the funding that needs to be there in the first place. It's not just our brand. I think it's possible. I think if it's done right, I think the people of California, not just the U.S., would see an amazing night of racing. The individual FIM Speedway GP Championship, you know, there's 20 heats, 2 semis, and a final. Now, one heat takes less than a minute. 4 laps, 4 riders, 90 miles an hour, no brakes, no gears, 500 cc.
Love
it's
it.
Electric.
Love it,
it's
man.
Action as you can imagine. And it's electrifying to watch. It puts you on the edge. The format's real simple to follow. 3 points for a win, 2 points for second, 1 for third, 0 for fourth. Yeah, it's a lot of fun to watch. I would love to have a GP stop in the U.S., and I'm sure a lot of our fellow Speedway connoisseurs of California would also love that. But what's happening in the U.S. with Speedway is actually a good thing right now. Team USA. In Europe, we're also the main sponsor of Speedway World Cup, where it's a national type battle. And USA participates in that. Greg's the main guy. And then there are some couple local kids from Costa Mesa and the local racing here that do very well. I think, you know, in the past couple years, they've been 5th in the world as a country. Not bad. Not progressing into the finals, but getting into the race-offs, which is a huge goal for them to have reached just that. They no longer have to qualify every year for the World Cup because they finish in the top 5, top 6. They're grandfathered in already. So they are doing some good things here. Billy Hamill has been grooming a bunch of youngsters here, along with Greg Hancock's input. Bruce Penhall's been involved a little bit here and there.
As well he should, man.
Yeah, Kelly Inman, who's doing some stuff over at the City of Industry Racing. You got the Costa Mesa stuff happening. Auburn Hills is happening.
Now what do those venues hold, would you say?
From spectators, they're not that big, you know. I mean, Costa Mesa on a good night, you might have 2,000-3,000 people.
I mean, they're packed for what they
yeah,
are.
Absolutely. And there's an abundance of racing going on. But it is obviously completely different when you put it at the World Championship level.
Sure.
The tracks in Europe compared to the tracks here are big. They're big. Yeah.
Yeah, they're hitting higher speeds.
They're
coming
380 meters.
Yeah.
Okay, you're looking at the same similar width of a running track. You know, so they can build up speeds of 90 miles an hour to get into those corners. And some of the tracks are banked like a bowl they're just amazing to watch.
So you're sliding sideways against the inner bank.
Yeah, you're sliding up and you shoot out. Exactly right. Yeah.
That actually works. That works good.
Oh, it works very well.
Yeah.
It brings lots of racing lines. You know, you never want to go to a track and there's really only one line and everyone's kind of following each other.
It's hard enough to pass in that short
absolutely.
boom, boom, boom.
Absolutely.
Anyways, you know.
Yeah. The tracks here in America are much smaller, very more technical. So when you take a big rider who rides on big tracks, meaning over to a smaller track, they aren't able to really.
That's like a Supercross or heading to an arena cross track.
Exactly. Yeah. Now it's good from a learning perspective to learn on the smaller tracks because you learn that technical aspect of the racing, but you need to progress. And that's the question: why is Greg Hancock so good? Well, look where he learned in Costa Mesa, small track. Bruce Penhall, small track. You know, Bruce Penhall, world champion. Greg Hancock, world champion. Billy Hamill, world champion. All coming from these small technical tracks, and then went over to Europe, and then they can ride the big tracks.
So what if we could convince our friends at the XGames to add this to their some
they
talk about their
flat track.
motorsport thing.
They took flat track, so I don't think they're.
They should take Speedway over that flat track all day.
Well, flat
The
track
Harley
is
thing
being
did
backed
nothing
by
for
Harley,
me.
and so they're going to take that. But
sure,
I hear they want to actually stimulate their motorsports roles, and so I think they may be interested in looking at additional venues. And you know, I would say a place like that, if it was birthed there in the U.S., might be the kind of spark that could give it some life.
To my
Absolutely,
knowledge,
you could do something, say Home Depot Center. A venue like that would work probably very well.
Think Texas now.
Yeah, because
Absolutely.
they signed a contract with COTA, Circuit of the Americas in Austin, I think, for the next 3 years.
Yeah.
And so the track that they built out in the far field is permanent now. But what the riders didn't like about the field is that it was so bumpy. And it turned out that there was one line around the whole course. So they struggled with it. But that's why I can't remember. The rider that got out in front, grabbed the whole shot, led the whole race.
Was that Jared?
Jared Meese.
Jared Meese, yeah.
His bike started breaking apart because on the stones, on the turns and on the straightaways, the screws started coming loose, and so one of the screws just fell off his bike, and that's why he didn't.
No, it is, and that's the key to that. You know, even flat track or speedway riding, you got to have a surface. I mean, it's like when you think of playing tennis on a clay court. You know, it's got to be prepared just right before that sport just comes electric. And when you go into a temporary build versus a permanent track, it's got to be a closed arena so you can control that environment. If rain comes, you're done.
Sure.
You've invested all this in, for infrastructure, all the riding, everybody's there. If the weather changes, there is no racing. It becomes a parade.
Yeah, and that was the thing, too, with this past X Games is that Texas had all those floods.
Yes.
And that, like, the 100-day storm, whatever it was, and it was pouring. That track was underwater a week, 3 to 4 days before the event. And so even leading up to the event, they had,
it was dry on the surface and even a little dusty, but it was still a sponge. It was...
Yeah.
There's so much water underneath it.
Yeah, it's not easy to
good for motocross.
Yeah, I mean it's good for motocross, but when you're doing 100+ miles an hour on a Harley Davidson and you're going to pitch it sideways,
right?
You want to make sure you've got your right setup and everything's going to work, and grip is good, but also no grip is good. There's that fine line, and that's the same with speedway. Is the setup of your bike based on the dirt conditions and. The races that we do as temporary tracks are all in closed arenas. We go to the Millennium Stadium in the UK, in Wales, in Cardiff, and there 45,000 people show up. And that's a closed arena, purpose-built for that one night, and it puts on one heck of a show.
Now, break it down for me a little bit, unpack it a little bit. So, say in Supercross, we might go and see there are times where like a Villapoto is the dominant guy for a couple of years and basically everybody's racing for third and fourth. There are seasons like what we are in right now where there is no dominant player. It's open field. There's several people that are potentially going to be the guy, the Tomac, the Barsha, the Bubba, whoever it's going to be. But it is undetermined truly. How is that over there? Is there a hyper dominant character, or is there?
I think there's a dominant group of guys, and any one of those guys can win that night of racing.
Okay, so there's a couple
on every night.
Yeah.
You're not going to have typically,
and that's good.
Absolutely, and that's what makes it so challenging for the rider, but yet so exciting for the spectators. There's no guarantee, no matter how good everyone is, that you're going to perform that night. There are so many variables to it. Even though as simple as the bike is, no gears, no brakes, 500cc, they're all running the same tire. It's a spec tire.
Okay.
They can't groove the tire. They have so many tires. They have 2 bikes that they bring. So if they wad up a bike, they can bring out the other bike. They can have a third bike, but that third bike's got to be on Park for May.
How spec is the motor?
Generally speaking, from the casing and everything, it's identical. Every motor is identical. But then each rider will have a relationship with a particular engine tuner. And there's only so many tuners out there, and each motor is tuned differently depending on where they're racing.
Sure, traction versus
yeah.
top end versus.
Yeah. So the biggest thing is the jetting on the carb, the clutch, and the distance that they move the rear tire back or forward. Yeah, there's another adjustment there.
Yeah.
And those adjustments and setups on Friday, they have a couple hours of practice between all the riders, and they kind of find where they're going to start, where their starting point is for tomorrow's night race. And then as the race goes on, bikes are going in circles. So that means dirt's moving. So you've got to have your setup, and you've got to chase the dirt throughout the night. Yes, after 4 heats, they do a track grade. But still, the inside line that was fast in the first couple of heats builds up a slicker groove. And the dirt becomes more grippy out there. So you've got to chase that and find that. Then the start of the race. Who's a good gate starter? Who can get out of that gate quick enough? In some cases, you win the race based on the gate pick you got. Chances are, maybe at the gate, outside gate versus the inside gate, or where you are, might be softer or harder. So depending on where you start in each heat, well, the starting of each heat isn't dictated by you. It's dictated by a lottery. It's a draw that takes place. They're pulling names out, and they say, oh, in heat 1, you're blue. Okay? And then it moves on down through. That's why each rider rides 5 times. There are 16 riders, and there are 20 heats. And after the 20 heats, the top 8 riders who has the most points move on to semi A and B. And then from those semis, the first and second position winners move to the final.
Yep.
Yeah, but you carry all these points throughout the whole series. So the points you got in race 1, even though you didn't get in the semi or the final, continue to the next race.
All right, I want to throw a curveball at him right here because I feel like we're getting it. We got this, but when you were here, you were so heavily involved in Baja. You were a champion for Baja racing. It's something that is in your blood, and Baja has evolved since you've been gone. Monster is now very involved in Baja. It has a new owner. There's new types of racing. So give me your lowdown on what you think is going on as far as Baja goes. What do you see about it? Do you miss it? And
I'll always miss Baja. Yeah. Baja to me is home. You know.
You brought MonsterEnergy their first Baja 1000 win?
I don't know about the win, because I think our first technical win was probably BJ, I think, believe it or not. We brought Alan Pfluger in. So
you keep thinking about
he was
trucks,
the first
but
big monster contract in the trucks, right?
Yeah, bikes, we brought in the first bikes.
That's right, the first win.
Exactly right. Yeah.
Okay. I just didn't want you to forget that.
No. It's hard to remember, so many years of every little thing and nook and cranny we've done.
Fair enough.
I remember when we all went down for that big Kawasaki team.
Yeah, the 1X team.
Yep.
That was 2009.
How'd that go for you guys?
Wow.
Well, we almost won. That was we ended up losing by 41 seconds?
It was right there.
Man.
Oh,
yeah.
God.
Who won that one?
You know what was beautiful about that team?
Who won that one?
Alec.
I don't know.
In
In 09?
I tell you
Somebody.
Suzuki.
Somebody's team won it. I forget who.
No,
Honda.
I
come on,
know.
Campbell.
I'm giving him crap.
Honda.
I'm giving him crap.
Johnny
He's trying to
Campbell.
get us to say his
I
team
got
of
it.
Johnny Campbell
Got it,
Racing.
But I
got
tell
it,
you
got it,
what,
got it.
here's a simple
just giving him
question.
a
Sorry, I
hard
wasn't
time.
picking up the pieces
Dan.
you were throwing down.
Was at any point in time you guys had a lot of pressure?
No, it was one of the funnest races. It came down to like 12 seconds or something ridiculous.
So
like
much
that.
That has
hype.
to be the
We
closest.
the 1X
Barely
team,
enough time for a Conor McGregor fight.
The 1X team was the first bike off the line and the first bike across the line, and we lost by 12 seconds. We led the whole race.
Some
Yeah.
penalties. Penalties.
No,
I don't know about that, but
No.
everybody has problems.
Really?
no. We had one issue where I believe it might have been, was it Robbie Bell at one point in time? I think he might have crashed
Bent a
just a
bar or
little bit,
something.
bent a bar,
Sure.
set us back a little bit, and then it was just a couple little things.
So who was that? Robbie, the Penhalls.
Yeah, we had Robbie Bell.
Yep.
We had
Wing, I think, was even down there.
Destry Abbott.
Destry Abbott.
One of the best people, one of the best human beings ever.
Connor Penhall.
Indeed.
Ryan Penhall.
Yep.
And Steve Hengefield.
Yes.
And you were in the copter, weren't you?
Yes. Yeah, me and Bruce worked on that program to help get it properly funded.
Yeah.
With Bob over at Precision. And yeah, that was a beautiful spectacle of racing. It was the first year, I believe, in 14 years since the Kawasaki bike had come back to the Baja, running a 1X plate. So there was a lot of hopes and dreams of the team, and yeah, what a tense, 15, 16, 17 hours, 18 hours of wow, we're still in the lead. Well, we're going to win this thing, which would have been just the icing on the cake.
Of course, yeah.
But the way it went, I still think it was.
You left with your head super high.
It put a lot of energy back into Baja, I believe. You know what I mean?
Real battling is what it's really all about.
It hadn't, like I said, I believe 14 years between you had two manufacturers battling for the Baja.
Yeah.
It's always great to have.
It's still like that. Even to this day, it's still Monster Energy against Honda. I mean, it seems year after year, it's just always these two factories going after each other.
It's good for the sport to have competition. It's always great to have your brand winning, but at the end of the day, you just want to be competitive, and you want to be able to compete against your other fellow brands or riders or athletes, whoever that may be. It's no fun just to watch any kind of racing or an event and see one continuous brand always just be the dominant force. It's good to have diversity, and that's one of the reasons why we're, to be honest, we've looked at, why we've been pretty successful in the Dakar Rally, and why are we taking this 1 year hiatus?
That's where I wanted to go to next.
Is when you look at the portfolio, our brand that we compete against on a global scale has put all their eggs in one basket. And we just felt, we're going to take 1 year and step it back and see how the fans react to that. Because it's really just one brand sponsoring everybody.
Kind of just take a look from the outside for a year.
That's from the branding side of things. The race, the athletes that are racing, God bless them, good for them that they've got to deal with another brand, absolutely.
Sure.
Because without that other brand, it wouldn't be, the event itself for the fans wouldn't be at that level.
So is that for a specific class, or is
every class?
Period.
It's okay.
So Monster Energy is pulled out of sponsoring the Dakar Rally this year.
We don't have a major presence the way we have in the past.
Got you.
The only racer that we are supporting is basically on a personal deal. That's Gerlain Chichery, who'll be driving the Zebra buggy again, and we have a full helmet deal with him. But the brand itself is not down there. First and foremost, we don't sell our product in Argentina as of today, so we can't really do a lot of ground activation around supporting our race team. Even though the Dakar itself, is broadcast into 190 countries worldwide.
The media value
is astronomical.
Yeah.
The 3 years that we backed up, we won it 3 years in a row, which is a pretty big accomplishment. We came in, did that, and we've taken a step out. And we'll resort some things back and see how we can come back and stoke the fire again.
Well, now you've got your old sponsoree and good buddy from a long time ago, not with Monster Energy anymore, but Robbie Gordon putting on a two-car team this year. Now he's bringing in young phenom Sheldon Creed. Jonah Street is the co-driver. Two-car, Robbie puts these huge efforts into this thing, and just these little things have been biting him, I think, 2-3 years now in it for the Gordini. Could this be a year? What do you like the chances of Team USA?
I love what Robbie does. Love him or hate him, he's the king of off-road. Let's face it. He's an amazing showman. He's an amazing marketeer.
No doubt.
He's kind of like the Bandit from Smokey the Bandit.
And if you've ever been down in Argentina for the Dakar and you see the way the fans and he and his team interact with those fans, it's a priceless moment. He may not win the race. He wins some stages. He's not on the podium the final day. But from the fan perspective and the media perspective, he wins the show.
Yeah.
Well, at this point in time in his career, it's not for him. A championship could. He has plenty of those.
Oh no.
Yeah. No, he's not going for second. I can tell you that right now.
No.
You know.
Yeah, no. Don't get me wrong there.
He's
but when it
going
comes
for the win for sure.
Sorry.
Yeah. He's all or
He's
nothing.
always gunning for it.
When he gets to a point where he knows he's not in that winning position, he flips a switch and goes into marketing media mode.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
And he
wins either
regains
way.
what he's lost in another way.
Yeah.
And from that perspective, yeah, the guy's genius in that level.
Two questions. Can he win it? Will he win it someday?
This particular year is going to be an interesting year for Dakar. You know, it was supposed to be a 3-country race. You're supposed to have Peru, Bolivia, Argentina. That was the original race. Peru had pulled out in the last 2.5, 3 months, and now it's just primarily Argentina and 2 days in Bolivia and back to Argentina. And when I say this year is going to be a lot different, some people go, why? What's going to be different? 2-country, 3-country, what's the big deal?
Terrain?
Peru had some of the most beautiful spectacle dunes you've seen in the world. Chile, big dune sections. When you get into Argentina and Bolivia and back to Argentina, it's a lot of, I would say, WRC style racing.
Which really does not favor Robbie at all.
Doesn't really favor anybody.
Oh, it favors the Mini.
It favors a 4-wheel drive vehicle.
Yeah.
But if it's a track that everybody has to follow, yes, there's going to be extensive navigation challenges between forks in the road, but it's not what you think of the traditional Dakar where you're running through open cross country.
Right.
That's not really going to be this Dakar. And it's not because there's no Peru. And the cancellation has really put a big challenge back on the organizers of the ASO. And I think what they've done is they've responded back pretty well, is they've created marathon stages. Now, this is going to be another huge, huge hurdle for any race team.
Now it's durability challenge.
Yeah. A marathon stage is basically the race team leaves the bivouac in the morning and races to a destination. But that team itself is the service. The truck of the mechanics and everything, they don't leave the bivouac. Okay? So they've raced away. Robbie and the boys will camp up overnight and have to come back on the same parts that they left to go there unless they carry their own parts. They can't be supported by any outside other than another competitor. They're going to have 2 stages of marathon. So that's going to be reliability. So you might leave that day in the morning, your bivouac, and if you're pushing it and you wear out your tires, where do you get more tires from? Your other competitor. Yeah? You break drive lines. If you don't carry those things, where do you get them from? Your other competitor. This is where Robbie really needs that second car.
Well, and this is where Robbie may have to actually get parts from his car, depending on his deal with Sheldon, to Sheldon.
Well, basically the way that works is a lot of people think, there's team orders. Robbie's the main guy. Yeah, he is theoretically on day 1, but by day 2, day 3, day 4, whoever's ahead in time, let's face it, Robbie as an owner, as a driver, as a racer, his objective is to have the Gordini, any one of them, be up front.
But I really think that you bring up an interesting point. So you think that this transition is going to make for less passing and less navigational challenges. I think that isn't going to hurt Robbie. I think he'll do well there because he's a driver. That guy's a bad dude, right? So if he doesn't have navigational error, he has less navigational errors, and he just is keeping it pinned. That favors him. But I believe he really needs those off-road sections to really allow the Gordini to shine over these other vehicles, these big dunes and whatnot. And if you're taking those out of the equation, I think that puts a real challenge in his program.
It does. Now, as I keep a close eye on a lot of the different teams that take part in this race, Robbie has done this year, in 2015, after the Dakar, the most testing he's ever done on a vehicle for Dakar. He's done it this year for reliability.
Well, that says a lot.
So when you look at speed, you look at navigation, well, those things are great. but you got to be reliable.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You could be the fastest guy, no navigation issues, but if you break down every third or fourth stage,
yeah,
it doesn't work. And also, winning stages is good for the day, but winning stages every day doesn't necessarily put you in a good position, because when you win a stage on day 1 or day 2 or day 3 or whatever which day you win, that means you start first the next day, which means you open the road. So if I start second and third every time and I catch your dust, I've made up 2 minutes. So I don't need to win. I don't need to pass you.
Right.
Yeah, I just need to be able to be right in your dust every day, running behind you, let you make the mistake and capitalize on that navigation or mechanical failure. Then an overtake will take place. But winning stages is good for media for the day.
Yeah. I heard the single most wildest moment in all of off-road is to ride in Robbie's car down that dune into the bivouac.
Iquique, in Chile.
In Chile.
Yeah.
The wildest thing you can do in the whole sport.
Yeah. It's
like 170 miles an hour down a mountain.
At least.
It's like, going down the Cornice Bowl at Mammoth in a car, dude.
Taped, with Robbie taped, like looking at you with that wild grin.
Yeah.
So, Joe, we're just about out of time. Thank you so much for coming down and
no
chatting
worries.
with us. It's always phenomenal. When are you going to get back to Baja, by the way? I know you're just here for a couple weeks now. But
I know over the next couple weeks that I'm here, I'll definitely be in my pre-runner out there having a lot of fun.
yeah, nice. So you only get to start her up every once in a while. So
yeah, you haven't got to introduce your wife to Baja.
Not the Baja itself, but yesterday we did a little shakedown of the trucks, make sure everything's together.
Barstow Baja?
Horsepower range.
And then, we just went up to Holy Jim Canyon, did a quick little 10, 15-mile run up the desert there, up the hill, make sure it shakes out good, and then we'll head out there for one of the 2 of the 3 of the days that we're here and go have some fun. She's already experienced a little bit of it out there already, so she's up for it.
And how does she feel about it?
Oh,
Good.
She loves it.
Thumbs
she
up.
loves it.
Nice. She's on the couch. Gave us a
I
thumbs
think
up.
her biggest enjoyment is she likes to see the kid in me.
Oh, yeah. We all like that, Joe.
So, Joe, where can the folks at home follow you to watch the kid in you for everything you're doing in Europe and all that?
SpeedwayGP.com is one of the biggest properties that I'm extensively involved quite a bit. This year I was at a lot of the motocrosses, with Ryan Villapoto and Thomas Covington, and that was a good challenge. And next year, we definitely are focused on Speedway itself, and in Poland is where I reside and base, and
so
we're always looking for new things, Yeah, what was your question?
Oh, give us your social media so people can follow you on Instagram.
Oh, Instagram at Monster Joe.
Monster Joe.
Yeah, Monster Joe on Twitter, Monster Joe on Instagram, and Joe Parsons, Simple Joe Parsons on Facebook. And I'm not a hard thing to find. I'm bouncing around jet setting country to country to country. Sometimes the only American in some countries, other than my fellow American, Greg Hancock, which is a blast to hang out with, having another American over there for me.
Next time you come back, we didn't get in. There's just not enough time with you, but one of the keys to you going to Europe was that Monster is an American company and need to be presented as an American company in Europe. And I would have loved to have heard more about what that means and how you navigate that, because you are Captain America living in Poland. So
you just got to come back.
Yeah, it's not a hard thing to do. It's just a few flights, and then you're here.
Yeah. What a treat.
Joe Parsons, ladies and gentlemen. We got to take a little break, and we've got Doug Parsons. No relations, but he's here. Parsons and Parsons Night, the Action Sports Show, powered by Toyota of Escondido.
It's true. The best new cars make the best used cars. And Toyota of Escondido is once again #1 in Toyota certified used cars and trucks. Feel confident driving with the peace of mind of a 160-point inspection and Carfax report.
Toyota of Escondido. Toyota of Escondido.
You won't also get a 12-month or 12,000-mile comprehensive warranty from certified purchase date, plus a 7-year or 100,000-mile limited powertrain warranty from original date of sale when new. Please ask for complete warranty details. Toyota certified sales leader for San Diego County for 2014.
Hi folks, Jim here, and I want to talk to you about Slime Tire Sealant. Racers in all classes of motorcycles, ATV, bugs, cars, trucks are using Slime Tire Sealant to prevent flats, including pre-runners. Smart teams are even using slime inside their trailer tires too. I mean, how many tires do you have? Think about it. Do you have motorcycles, ATVs, cars, trucks, trailers, wheelbarrows, mowers, and bikes? How many flats have you had in the last year? Maybe the answer is none. Maybe you're due for one. How much time and money can flat tires cost you? How about just the peace of mind? Nobody likes flat tires at all. Just pre-install Slime Tire Sealant to prevent flat tires. Slime is a liquid tire sealant that easily installs after taking out the valve core of the tire with the tool provided. Once inside, slime seeks out and seals punctures instantly and repeatedly and is guaranteed for 2 years. Slime is non-toxic, non-combustible, water-soluble, and does not void tires' warranties, unlike that other stuff in the can. Go for Slime in the Gallon for all your off-road tires. If it isn't green, it isn't slime. Put trust in your tires. Slime, there's no stopping you.
What's up? This is Brian Deegan. You're listening to the Action Sports Show. That's what's up.
You're on, guys.
Oh, yeah.
All right, folks, welcome back to the Action Sports Show powered by Toyota of Escondido. If you're just joining us, this is the #1 stop shop for all your action sports news and stories each and every week. If you're on the website, follow our social media at TE Action Sports. That's at TE Action Sports. And subscribe to the podcast each and every week. And you can also now watch it live on YouTube like a lot of you are right now. I'm one of your hosts, Jim Holtis, Laurette Nicoll, Dan McGranahan, Dianna Dahlgren, all live in-house. And Dan, talk to us about our next great guest here. Another Parsons here on the Action Sports Show.
It's Parsons and Parsons night right here on the Action Sports Show. And next up, we have FMX icon, free ride superstar, media mogul, XGames judge. The list goes on and on. Doug Parsons, welcome to the show, man.
What's up? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, me and Doug have known each other for a long time. I'm really psyched to have you on the show. Man, I didn't even really get into all the radical things that you've done throughout your career, starting as a mini bike racer and as a FMX competitor and then transitioning on. And so we're going to get into it tonight. We're going to tell the story of Doug Parsons and the journey, the ups and downs. And, it's been a radical journey, and you've really paved the way for a lot of people, man.
Yeah, it's been a lot of peaks and valleys, and it's been cool writing the history books. So. Yeah,
writing the history books. How's that feel?
I mean,
it's pretty gnarly to say. Yeah, I've just been writing the history books of the sport. That's
well, no, you have to think about it. How many people do we get to talk about that paves the path for so many other athletes that are out there now, fighting for what you get to create.
Yeah, definitely. We started a few free ride events, and, little did I know it took off, and I don't know, probably 5 different promoters came out with similar contests. So it was just kind of like confirmation that I wasn't crazy, because everyone told me I was crazy, that my ideas wouldn't work. So it was cool that, some people would be like, did you get mad? They copied your deal? And I'm like, no. It's just confirmation that I wasn't crazy. So.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, well, most people that can't think out of the box are the first ones to tell you can't do it. So can you tell us about some of the events that you created?
Yeah, so the biggest one, the Red Bull Ride to the Hills, that was basically a free ride contest, and Blue Torch had actually tried to do something similar prior.
And unpack that, because I think a lot of people probably don't know what Blue Torch is at this stage of the game.
I don't even know what it is
Blue
now.
Torch was essentially what we knew to be Fuel TV before Fuel TV. It was called Blue Torch, and it was the TV equivalent of the Action Sports channel. And they showed a lot of surfing, showed a lot of skate, and they were open to new freestyle moto properties that were very new at the time.
Yeah, I was still
That's Blue
racing
Torch, in a nutshell.
Supercross back then. So I just remember they tried to put on a survival tour type thing, and they tried to incorporate online voting or something. But I saw a lot of holes in what they did. And when I did come up with the idea to do Ride to the Hills, looking back on what they did, I just figured out the missing ingredient. So,
which were what?
Typical freestyle was a 90-second run. And to do something in the hills, it wouldn't make sense to do 90 seconds. So I came up with an idea to do stages, and each jump was a stage, and we would sell each jump as a sponsorship. And there was 5 stages. I had a real big issue with judging because I came from racing. So I really had a problem with somebody else telling me that, you know, my tricks were only 4th place worthy, or, you know, especially somebody that couldn't hit the jumps that day or rode at all, period.
Yeah.
So that, like, really irked me. So I came up with the concept to have riders only judge each other. You couldn't vote for yourself. And then we had the 5 stages, and one camera guy would film each stage, and we would use his footage to look back that night and watch him vote. So that's how I came up with it. And I came up with that because you know, I don't know if Unchained, if anyone's really heard of it, the documentary on the FMX history.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I kind of touch on not doing the flip and the fear of the flip and all that, kind of like where that took me. But driving home from WinterX, I was talking with my partner at the time for Ride to the Hills, and I was like, you know, I was done, and I knew it, and he was like at the end of his road, and I said, well, what if we come up with this idea and this concept, and, you know, we do it out at Jackpot and out at his ranch, and, you know, we put it together, and we rounded up enough sponsorship to just basically produce the event. We didn't have enough money to pay the riders, but because I was friends with the riders, I said, hey, if, you know, I sell it and we sell it to a big company, I'll pay you double next year for making up for riding for free.
Yeah.
So we pulled it off, and then Red Bull signed on for 3 years, I think, and yeah, the rest is history.
I'm curious of that moment when you had the riders judging themselves, being so competitive with each other. Like who was Russia? And I want you to drop some names. Like,
well, at that point, you don't really have a panel. It's for like the being born. Freestyle is being born.
Correct. Right. But if you have all these guys and you got like, you know,
Dustin Miller,
yeah,
Ronnie Renner.
It's just like, oh, I'm not giving anybody any points. I'm going to score them so low. Who was the guy? Because I want the veil pulled back, because that's what this show's about. Pull back the veil. It's been over a decade. It's no problem. Nobody's going to get mad.
Okay, it was probably me.
It was probably you.
Yeah. So the guy that I was most worried about, I definitely scored him the lowest.
And who was that? Who was that?
It was probably like Dustin Miller, or at the time, I was really worried probably about Miller because, you know, he goes big and he's always
super tech.
Yeah, in super tech, and at the time he was at the top of his game. He was winning all the IFMAs. You know, he's like triple combo guy. You know, and I'm just like barely getting one combo, and if that. So I was really worried about him bringing the combos and like what he was known for out into the hill scene. So that's probably, he was one of the guys. I forget who all was there, but yeah. So
should have had the throw out rule that the lowest score gets thrown out.
Yeah.
Tactics.
Yeah.
Rider tactics.
But looking back now, like they I don't know if they gave it to me because, you know, it was my event, or if they really did think I won, but I ended up winning it. And looking back now, I was like, man, like I should have just excluded myself, you know.
Well, he's such a humble dude, but this guy in the hills,
conflict of interest,
is one of the most extraordinary riders you'll ride
Thank
with.
you.
There are certain people that are very special in the hills, the Mike Metzgers, the you know, the Stenbergs, the Doug Parsons.
Yeah, no, I love riding with Stenberg. when you see like
the Ronnie Renners.
Yeah, when you see Jeremy come out in the hills, and then I come out and we go riding. There's this like energy level that everyone can see and feel.
Yeah.
That's different from just regular riders, and it's that energy that creates those unique moments that make those parts in the video that are timeless.
Yeah.
Would you say it's a level of passion that is out in the hills because the pressure is off for competition?
I would say it has to do with a few different things. One, it's dirt is wet, and when after it rains and it's wet, you can bring the shovel and you can basically, create the jump to fit your need, your style, whatever. But also too, it's also like where we can be the most artistic. It's like, where you can show what you're made of. It's not like doing X Games where there's the set course. So if you're not good at that, then that's it. Out in the hills, Jeremy's over here doing this jump, killing it, but I'm not feeling it. So I go over here and I got this jump because it's more me, and then I'm killing it here. So it's like everyone can find their own little spot and everyone can have their own little, moment. So
what is more you? What would you say is your style? What do you look for? You look for a step over? You look for some drifty hill jump? Like what?
Like for me, I like the big, probably step up type jumps where if you do case it, which for some reason 99% of the time I'm always 5 feet short. So no matter how big the jump is, I'm gonna deck it.
Okay.
No matter what. So, but I like the long, like big floaters, like big jumps where you have a pretty big landing, and then you can just really get into like a really good whip. Because, growing up riding, Jeremy and Joel Albrecht lived down the street. Brian and Jeff Emig lived with them for a while. So I was always little Doug, and they always came and picked me up, take me riding, and Dave Castillo and Buddy Antonez and Dana Wiggins and Billy Feltz. Like, those were the guys that I would chase around, and I was just, little Doug. And they would take me down the gnarliest trails just to see if I could crash. And they would all, like, race down the hill, and then they'd sit there and wait and watch me come down the hill and see if I'd just buckle and cartwheel. But it made me the rider I was, and by the time I started racing, I was already, I don't know, maybe it's natural talent, or I don't know what you call it, but I was
so you started pretty high when you did step on that track.
My first race, when I signed up in the beginner class, I probably should have signed up in like the intermediate class.
Right.
But it was just because I grew up riding with those guys and them pushing me, and I learned a lot from them. And then these guys hadn't won championships yet. Like, when I met McGrath out in the hills for the first time, I think he was 14. He was like Team Green, So it was just cool to be able to grow up riding with those guys, and then they became who they became. And but I do think that played into, the rider I was. And then, when once I transitioned into freestyle, when the courses were more dirt jumps and more free ride-ish, that's where I excelled. And I think, and then that's kind of, that got me thinking, like, man, I don't like this judging thing, I don't.
Says the judge.
Says the judge.
Yeah. Now I'm a judge.
So how did that transpire? Because you're telling us you don't like being judged, and you had a real problem with judging. And now you're a judge. Like, how did that all come to be?
I probably just needed money, so they offered me a job to judge. No, actually, I wanted to go the Global X Games. I wanted to go, and I started doing work with Paul Tabley, and I was an associate producer on Unchained, the documentary.
Which we had Paul on the show not too long ago.
Yeah, just a few weeks ago.
And it just came out, right?
Just aired in
I
Vegas.
was at that. And I'm an idiot for spacing on the name Unchained, but I was actually there at that premiere and watched it, and it's a wonderful documentary about freestyle. It's just Paul did such a great job on that film.
Yeah, it was really cool. they transcribed, they filmed 50 people, video interviews, and transcribed it, and then I read everyone's interviews, and then I put all the story parts together. But there's so many more stories that they didn't even touch on that are just, if people knew how certain things developed, how they got to where they were, it's just like they have so much good stuff, but you can only fit so much in 90 minutes or whatever it is. But it is a really great film, and it was really fun to work on. And so working with Paul on that, that's kind of how I got into judging and helping with deciding who should get invited and invited the judges they use. So,
do you think you're a fair judge?
It depends on
The person who doesn't like being judged doesn't know if he's a fair judge or not.
Well, one time Monster
Don't judge me.
Took first, second, and third, and
did they deserve it?
No.
You don't think so?
Well, one guy should have gotten second, and he was a Red Bull rider, and I didn't. You know,
which one was this? Because I may disagree with you.
It was the one when Levi should have got second. Like
I don't know where I am on that because it's arguable. I'll tell you that much.
It's so objective. It's hard. But I think this last year it was probably the best year as far as judging goes. Like everyone said, everyone finished where they should have. So that was my goal.
The last year where they didn't have freestyle.
The spin style.
Okay.
Yeah. What else did we judge?
There's quarter pipe.
Quarter pipe, yeah. But that was just like
obvious.
Who's gonna go out there and huck themselves? You know.
Jacko was so bummed because he had been working so hard, and the setup wasn't there for him, and someone else got the setup that he was really looking for. But
you know, that's been going on at X Games for a long time, and you have to go in if you are really have to have the ramp set up just a certain way, then you better have the leverage and the connections to make sure that's going to happen. If you just show up and think they're going to do it the way you want at the last minute, you are sorely mistaken. He should have known better.
But it was
that's
his
my
ramp.
opinion.
It was his ramp.
Doesn't even matter. I'm telling you, if you're not on the floor, I can't tell you how many times I've been on the floor and literally had to like make the ramp the way I needed it to be myself. Because that's and there's other riders that are sitting there and they're arguing it because they all know all they have to do to get you out of your trick is to get you out of your ramp.
Yep.
And they don't need a major adjustment to it.
Right. Yeah. No, I don't know. I thought because, you know, it was his ramp and he towed it out there, I thought it was kind of unfair for Jacko. But at the same time, I looked at his what he was going to do, and he didn't really have it down, and he was just going to Hail Mary it. So I think Levi, you know, his trick would have been cleaner, and he probably would have beat him anyways. But still, there was, you know, it was a big issue for sure, and Jacko for sure was bummed. I felt sorry for him. But, you know, Jacko's Jacko. I mean, dude's doing a front flip, and
he's so gnarly.
He's so gnarly, ramp to ramp, and just like – what's in the water down there with all these Australians?
Yeah, Cam Sinclair. We have the winner of Red Bull X Fighters, Clinton Moore, who just took his first title. You know, and last year he had a terrible season. And this year he just comes out of not nowhere because he's been on the Nitro Circus Tour, and he does amazing things. He does the Bundy.
It's not called the Bundy. I don't care what he says. Go on.
Don't get grumpy. I'm telling you.
He's my friend. I'll tell him to his face.
He's my friend.
My friend. Listen here, Cameron.
But I don't know. I don't know what's in the water. It's something.
I know. They're crazy. Whatever it is, those guys go for it.
Yep.
In all things.
Yeah.
Alcohol, partying.
Yeah.
Riding, commitment to the trick. They never come up 5 feet short.
I mean, we've had female UFC fighters in here, bike riders, all the Australians. You're right.
Yeah. I don't know. It's something.
My series Australian.
But no, I mean those guys are gnarly. I remember meeting Madison back in the day.
Matt, oh my gosh!
And
talk about.
He had just learned the flip. We were in Japan doing a demo, and then I invited him to the quarter pipe, the first one, I think, and he was down for all that stuff, and then he started doing his own free ride stuff in Australia, and I thought that was cool. Like, I never got mad if somebody copied anything I did. I just always was like, took it more as a compliment.
Sure.
So, you know, it was just cool that other people were into it, and, you know, I had a plan and, you know, why I wanted to do the whole free ride thing, and to stem from not doing the flip. So, you know, I tried to turn a negative into a positive and all that good stuff.
So you did some other events, and in one of them, tell us a little bit of story about the wall ride or the quarter pipe.
Yeah, so Jesse Olsen actually beat me to the punch by like a week, but I had an idea to build a wall ride, and I'm on this film trip with Adam Barker doing M80 series, and we go up to Olsen's to ride there, and he's got a wall ride build, and I'm just like, man, because I was going to build mine right when I got home. So I just built mine twice as big.
Yeah, there you go.
I just built mine twice as big, and it was pretty cool because where I did it out in Ritchie Canyon, out in the hills, and I remember I had to like go out and dig the holes and then take like a wheelbarrow, mix cement, and set the you know, posts in, yeah, and build it out there.
You just got your own little construction project going on in Ritchie Canyon?
Yeah, my dad had a framing, they framed houses business, so
Gotcha.
he just called a couple of the workers and said, you know, you want to make a couple $100, and they would come out and they framed up 2 walls, like 16 by 16, and put them up. And what's even funnier is these local kids thought it would be funny to knock it down the night before we were going to film. So I show up, and I'm like, well, that's kind of weird. It was standing up like this. Last time I saw it, now it's like this, and some of the posts were poking through. So we got like a bunch. There's probably like 16 of us, and we picked the wall back up and reset it. But it was just kind of ironic that, you know, here I am out here destroying stuff and being a punk on the road, and the local kids turn it on me.
There's always someone more destructive.
Yeah, so, but it was cool. Troy Adamitis was filming at the time, and he came out and filmed some stuff, and then Adam put it in M80, and, you know, that was, you know, kind of my deal. I was always trying to progress the sport, or, you know, if I didn't do the flip, I was still trying to do my part in some way. So,
yeah,
you know,
let's get into that, because there's you know there's the movie which tells quite a different people's story. It does touch on your story, and we're going to talk more about all the highs, but there's a reality to the flip, and you mentioned it a couple times in this stage of your career as an athlete, where you suddenly were faced with my sport, my career, my future, my hopes, my dreams are caught up in this sport, and it just went a place that I'm not willing to go. And you fell into a little bit of a dark time, and that was a rough season in your life, and you know you've recovered from that, and you're doing really great and back to really moving this sport forward. But touch on it, you know, don't take us into the canals, but touch on what happened. How'd that go down?
So basically, I think growing up racing, you know, not to sound arrogant, but I had a lot of natural talent, and as long as
I just want everybody to know I was a bad dude.
But my problem was I didn't do my homework. You know, I should have been out there training, going to the gym, so I was just getting by on sheer talent. So if I would have put in a little, like the one year I did put in effort, I almost won Loretta's, it was Nick Way. He went 1-2-1, and I went 2-1-2. So I almost won 258 class. And that was the year I put in a lot of effort. So when I switched into freestyle, back then it was kind of taboo, you know, for a racer to go into freestyle. But growing up in Ritchie, like, I knew that was me. Like, I just had that burning feeling like this is me, this is where I belong. And so up until that point, tricks were easy to learn. And then I got to the flip, and it was just, you know, I'd been hurt so many times and had so many surgeries. I didn't want to get hurt anymore. And up until that point, all the tricks we were doing, you can ease your way into them. And if you don't like them, you don't have to do them. You can do other tricks. Well, you know, if you wanted to be taken serious or go anywhere, you had to do the flip. So I just, you know, I went in on the foam pit at Deegan's. We all put $5,000 in. There was like 4 of us, and I jumped into it a couple of times, and I just knew that door was dead bolted shut, and there was no key, no saw could cut through it, and I just knew that, like, I don't know why, you know. To this day, I don't know why I couldn't get
because
through
there
it.
are guys with way less talent than you that made it through.
Right, and you know, in the first year at the LG Mobile contest, when Dane built like the sickest free ride, you know, contest type course, it was a lot of dirt hits. And I remember in my qualifying run, I saw some transfer lines, but I didn't do them in practice, and I waited till my qualifying run. Well, like, I went up on one of the jumps, and I like just totally like roosted in and carved in a line. And they were like, "What are you doing? You're wrecking the jump." Well, I was marking where I was going to land because I was going to transfer way over.
Yeah.
And then I did the section backwards down the middle. So I just, like, you know, brought Richie Canyon to the course.
Yeah.
And I won qualifying without flipping, and Nate and Twitch flipped. And so it was a big deal. They're like, you know, you didn't even flip. Like, so the next day, obviously, they got first and second. I got third. You know, and I missed winning by 1 point, and I wasn't flipping. So everybody came up to me and was like, all you got to do is a flip, and, you know, you're in, and this and that. So there was a ton of weight on my shoulders, you know, to do the flip, and then not doing it just added. And then when I jumped into the foam pit, and I knew, like this isn't for me, you know, like it was that much harder to deal with than, you know,
so, like, practically overnight, you were basically had your whole world taken away from you. I mean, and we're feeling it because.
Thanks, Carrie Hart.
Yeah. Thanks, Carrie
Thank
Hart.
you, Carrie.
Yeah, it was.
And Metzger and
Travis
and
Nate.
Nate.
All of them.
Oh God! Don't even bring up
first one.
Travis. Don't even bring up Travis.
Well, Doug,
that kid's a freak.
Guys,
that
we got to take our final break, and when we come back, I want to hear more about where this took you and how you ended up digging out of it to where you are today. So, very interesting story. More with Doug Parsons, folks. The Action Sports Show, powered by Toyota of Escondido. We'll be right back.
Ruin your good name. Take money for your shame, and we're all entertained. What can you do? The one name you should know, the best place you can go. Toyota of Escondido.
It's official. Once again, the truck pros at Toyota of Escondido sold more new Toyota trucks than any other Toyota dealer. That means more smart buyers like you trusted Toyota of Escondido's Truck Center to find them the right truck for work or play.
Toyota of Escondido. Toyota of Escondido.
It makes sense to buy from the truck sales leader. Let Toyota of Escondido customize your new truck to fit your active lifestyle. Choose from lift kits, custom tires and wheels, and much more. Come experience a whole new way to buy your next truck.
Toyota of Escondido.
Toyota truck sales leader for San Diego County for 2014.
You're listening to Guy Talk, broadcasting live from the Sport Clips Haircuts locker room. Caller, you're on the air.
Hey, boxers or briefs?
Speaking briefly, boxers. Unless you're a boxer, then I'd go briefs. Next caller.
I want to find my nearest sport clips, but I don't want to ask for directions.
It's not technically asking for directions if you use sportclips.com to find your nearest Sport Clips location, and no one will ever know. Let's take a break for a word from our sponsor, Sport Clips, where guys go to get an awesome haircut while watching sports on TV. Throw in our relaxing massaging shampoo and our legendary hot steam towel, and you've got our MVP haircut experience. Your head will be as majestic as a freshly mowed Major League outfield. Try it today. Last caller, you're on the air with Guy Talk.
So, how cool is getting a haircut at Sport Clips?
Oh, it's like stepping up to the plate and slam dunking a touchdown. That's all the time we have today. This has been Guy Talk, brought to you by Sport Clips, where it's good to be a guy.
Hey guys, Travis Pastrana here from Nitro Circus, and you're listening to The Action Sports Show.
You're on, guys.
All right, folks, welcome back to the Action Sports Show, powered by Toyota Escondido. Jim Holtis, Laurette Nicoll, Dan McGranahan, Dianna Dahlgren, and we're sitting here talking to Doug Parsons, just sharing some really deep times of kind of that you went into the dark side a little bit when people started doing the backflip in your sport of freestyle motocross, and I'd like you to continue with your story, just very intriguing.
Yeah, so had a lot of weight on my shoulders, and I was struggling with this issue that I had never been able to overcome. This fear of the flip. I couldn't get it, and I just couldn't figure out why. I didn't even know how to talk about it. It was gnarly. And so, unfortunately, being exposed to, certain pain medications and having surgeries and being hurt, that's the path that it took me down. And it was a struggle, and, it was a fight, and I got through it and worked my way back. And so it was a really dark time, and, for the first time talking about it, in the movie and in here. So it's kind of, because basically that was my dream, everything. And, basically 1 point was all I needed. And now it's like, here I am trying to figure out what I'm going to do with my life. And, I don't even know how to talk about it. And it was just, a lot of, dark times, and,
well,
it got crazy.
The beginnings of that is to do what you're doing now, which is just beginning to be able to verbalize it and, be confident in that you've moved past it. I think when you go through something like that, you feel like you're forever stuck in it. Maybe you're not confident enough that you've moved past it. And when you hear people start to be able to verbalize it with the heart, and what you had mentioned to us was, I want to verbalize it because I want it to be known, and I want it to be able to help other people with it. And, that's a really healthy sign.
Yeah, it's a huge epidemic right now. It's, the political or presidential debates, like, they're talking about it, like how big it is. And it's like, man, kids are struggling with it in motocross, or, it can help anyone. My biggest problem was I felt so ashamed to ask for help that it prolonged, I remember the first time I talked to my dad about it, and it was just like, I just felt relieved to finally let him know. But, man, it took like 3 years, just to get to that point. And, I know a lot of people struggle with it, and it is a struggle. And, you have to wake up every day to fight the good fight for the rest of your life. And as long as, you do that, you'll be fine. And, sometimes people slip up, or, riding, you crash, you break your bones, you may be exposed to it again. But as long as you know, the risk, and, try to.
And don't take it for granted. Yeah.
Right. Like, put checks and balances in places. I remember when I broke my foot, they were like, you can't take ibuprofen because the bone I broke doesn't get blood flow. And I was like, well, I don't want to take any painkillers because the ibuprofen is doing the trick. And they're like, well, you can't take it. So he gave me a prescription for Vicodin, and I felt like 10. And I waited a couple days to see if I even needed to take them. And once I didn't need them, I went to the pharmacy and just had her delete the script because I didn't want to deal with it. So as long as, you get in those situations, you can put the checks and balances in place. It is a struggle. But, as long as you put your best foot forward, you can beat it.
And you obviously got to a decisive point in your life where you needed to make change. How did you find the stability to do so?
Man, well, it takes, you just don't do it on your first try.
For sure.
It's, I read something earlier that said, like, it takes about 8 to 10 times to finally get sobriety out of it. But it was probably my family not, talking to me was probably the biggest thing. I remember my mom. It's kind of a funny story, but she called me. She's like, "I'm gonna pick you up and take you somewhere." I'm like, "Okay." She drives to the police station.
Oh my God.
And I was like, "There's no way I'm going in there." So that was an interesting one. But
I mean, you got to give it up for Mom, who probably just didn't know what to do. But
right?
knew
Yeah,
something
she
needed
was
to be
just
done.
at wit's end, and she was, she helped me out the most, even when she shouldn't have. And so, bless her heart, and it probably took 10 years off her life. But yeah, my mom, my sister, my dad, disappointing them was probably once I got to my lowest point, I wanted to do it for me first of all, but also for them as well.
Have you been able to find sobriety?
Oh yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Well done.
I mean, it's a struggle. It takes takes a few times to get there, but you can get there, and some things happen. So sometimes our slip up. So as long as you always get back to what really inspired me was Colin Scummy.
Watching Morrison's transition, and Morrison is a guy that has told me he was sober about 1,000 times and was lying, and then to the point where it was like just white noise.
Yeah.
But then it happened, and I'm so proud of that dude.
Yeah.
I'm so inspired by him.
Yep.
And encouraged by how he's living his life and what he's doing.
Yep.
And, it's really, really amazing. And so, hey, we've talked enough on that. We got a few minutes left of the show. We want to get on to some of, what you want to see yourself do in the future. You've got a lot left in you. I talked to you once about true freestylers. The pioneers are constantly in a state of creation.
Mm-hmm.
So you're always creating events or creating tricks or creating on your bike or whatever it is. And I know you're one of those guys. And so what's next on the creative calendar?
Well, I was talking with Chris Tedesco about a year ago, and I said, what can we do where we can incorporate, what I want to do in your profession? And we came up with coming up with, a really cool picture, an image. And I just went in this field by the housing track where we lived, and I blew out the top of this hill, but a storm was coming in behind us. And so it made this really cool image.
I remember the image when you guys first did it.
Yeah, it was amazing. Purple. Yeah, purple and black in the back. Well, he sold it to Carlton Dry, the alcohol company in Australia, and it's going up in 200 hotels over there. And he licensed it to them. And that was kind of the concept, to do something where we could make money, but, it would be nice to do it every month, but it happened a year and a half later, but still.
But taking the hills and taking that and creating art with bikes, and you have to have a partner, a photographer, and certainly
or a filmer, yep.
Or filmer, but Tedesco's at the top of that list.
Right, yeah. And so it's just the creative part of it, I want to create, I have a whole notebook full of ideas for different shows and different ideas for contests, and so it's just that creative, staying creative and what can I do to push the sport further, or what's next, or what do people want to see.
Now, what about one of those video X Games parts?
Yeah, I was really bummed that I didn't get the invite, but I understand. I haven't been in, the sport that, currently active, but.
So that would entice you?
Oh, yeah. I had a bike. I had Cycle News gave me a bike, and I had a brand new 2015 RMZ 450, probably one of the baddest bikes I've ever ridden, and I did it all up, and it didn't work out. They already had the guys picked, and then they picked new guys down the road, but I understand why I didn't get picked, but yeah,
because you're one of the guys that's got to be on a short list for something like that, I would think.
Yeah.
Because you have the creative side, you have the ability side.
Right. The Ride to the Hills, I designed that specifically to get into X Games.
Yeah.
I pitched it to Paul, and he's like, no, it'll never happen, and then he created FMX Riot, and their formula was identical to mine, and they're like, well, what are you talking about?
Right.
But I was like,
I never heard you say that.
Yeah, but so the creative aspect, the producing, all that.
We got just a few moments left, so we want to hit on, if you were to take a person on this panel, not myself, because obviously, but and teach them freestyle. Who would you pick, and how would you teach them?
Well, Well, I've seen you out in the dunes, so we can work.
Freestyle. Don't know about freestyle.
We could work on a couple things.
I think Dianna is probably a better choice.
Because both these girls ride, by the way.
Yeah, I have a KTM 350.
I haven't seen you ride
I just hop on anyone's bike that's readily available at any given time.
See,
I have a
what-
Harley, but that's about
Yeah,
it.
but I think you're probably braver than I am because my first line of thought is, uh-oh, how can this go wrong?
Yeah.
I think about the consequences.
Hers is like, how do
fast
I
can
get
we
it started?
go? Yeah.
Start it.
How do we, yeah.
Yeah, no. How can I get them convinced that I actually know how to ride? That's usually the
You're
main
like,
problem.
this is the front brake, right?
No.
Does this make you
No.
go faster?
That is not me. Are you kidding me? Come on.
Hey, you got picked. You're the next freestyle prodigy of the panel.
I would 100%.
So what tricks do you start her with, and how do you?
Well,
you started with
definitely
the no
we
footer
need
or
to put some gear and some pads on her first.
Oh yeah, she wasn't riding in gear and pads last time I saw her.
That was definitely the wrong costume.
Hey, we got just a few seconds left. Tell everyone where your social media, where they can follow you. And,
Doug Parsons 23. That's pretty much my handle for everything. So, yeah, that's that. And I got a couple projects I'm working on that will involve me being involved with the industry. So I'm hoping those come together. And when they do come to light, I will let everyone know.
All right. We appreciate you coming
Yeah.
in-house and being our guest, and look forward to seeing those projects. We'll see you around, and congratulations on your fight, man. And,
Yeah, thanks a lot. Thank
long
you.
road
Thanks
back
for
and,
letting me come in and talk and ramble on.
So congratulations, and thanks to both the Parsons for coming in tonight, Doug and Joe, and all you folks for listening. Don't forget to check us out here every Tuesday, 6:30 to 8:30. Go to theactionsportshow.com for more information. You can follow the social media at TEActionSports. Download the podcast, and hey, you all have a great week and a Merry Christmas to everyone out there. Have a safe week. Don't text and drive. Dianna, from all of us here, have a great week. We'll see you next time on the Action Sports Show.
Merry Christmas.